This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
And good morning, good afternoon, wherever the case may be. You're here live with Dr. Jeff Werber, your host for the next 30 minutes here on Pet Life Radio's Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff. A live call-in show. The key words, call in. Number of ways you can get a hold of me. One is the easy way, toll-free 877-385-8882. Once again, 877-385-8882. Even better, you can log on to Pet Life Radio's website at petliferadio.com. You click on Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff tab, and there will be a Google Hangouts link. That's really cool. You can link right in, join us here live, sit in front of your camera, in front of your phone. We can see you, you can see us, and we can even see your pets. So if you have any questions, anything you want to ask, anything that's bugging you about your pet's health, etc., we will be here to help. And it doesn't cost you a dime. What could be better? Go to your vet and take up time, ask them questions, and see if you can walk out of there for free. So here's a great way you can get the care, the questions answered, and it doesn't cost you anything. Anyway, so as many of you know who listen, I like to peruse the American Vet Med Association, kind of let you know what's making news in our veterinary world. Some information, some great tips. If you, by the way, if you have a question, you want to chime in, I'll be happy to not go through AVMA Spark Brief. Once again, 877-385-8882, or just join us live on Google Hangouts through Pet Life Radio and Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff. So now here's one. You know, we have had scares over the years of the canine influenza virus. And there was H3N8, and now lately is H3N2. And this one seems to be something more to reckon with. As a matter of fact, there have been, I'm just going to read a list of the states since the University of Florida had identified a cluster of these cases and identified the virus to be H3N2, a new version, a new variety of the influenza virus. And on this one, seriously, it's a problem. Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. In fact, North Carolina has already had 2 deaths. South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas, and Illinois. So it is out there and it is spreading. So don't think that you are immune. Don't think your pets are immune to it. As I think I mentioned a couple of weeks back, that even though we have not had many cases, or at least reported cases that I know of in California, many of the daycare facilities and boarding facilities are requiring it, as they are, of course, rabies and Bordetella, because they don't want to be the first to have a problem where someone's pet gets sick because of a pet that they were housing and didn't insist on vaccination. So I have been vaccinating many of my patients that regularly frequent these places, these daycare facilities and these boarding facilities, because, or else they won't be let in. So something, again, it's not something to just, it never happened to my dog. It's not going to happen, or I haven't heard any cases. You never know. And one of the points that was, I think I made last week, maybe the week before, that one of the veterinarians that does infectious disease said that the more complacent we continue to be, the more likely that it will be a problem. Why? Because if our pets are vaccinated, and it does come, the influenza virus does come to your city, and your pets are protected, they will not get sick and they will not be able to spread it. But if everybody sits back and says, well, I'm going to wait until I hear whether there's a real problem, those are the ones, that's the time that we might get hit with the virus. So I would be, if you're going to err, not an expensive vaccine, you might be extra cautious, especially if you have a dog that frequents these facilities, these locations, these parks, where there are a lot of other dogs. If you have a typical backyard dog and he's just in your yard and you take him for a walk in your neighborhood, you're probably okay. But if they go to these daycare facilities, dog parks on a regular basis, it might be something to consider. One thing, there was a study that found many, many similarities to canine mammary cancer, which is somewhat prevalent, especially in dogs that are not spayed. Male dogs, you want to get them at least before their second heat. If you have a large breed, there's some reason you want to worry about the urinary incontinence, you want to let them have the first heat, okay, that's fine. But unless you have a well-championed breeding dog, and yours is just a pet like mine are and most of the patients I take care of, then you want to get them fixed before their second heat. The risk reduction of mammary cancer as an older dog drops dramatically if she has a second heat. So it's a pretty high risk reduction if you spay them early. But I know there's some other issues, and I'm on board if you want to let them have one heat, but I wouldn't let them have a second. But they found a lot of similarities to canine mammary cancer and human breast cancer. And the good news is that, and this is the same thing with leukemia virus and FIV, feline infectious, immunodeficiency virus, and the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, that when we have diseases that are so similar in scope, and we have two sets of amazing teams working on prevention, vaccine, et cetera, we only help each other. And that's what we're hoping as well when the studies being done on the mammary cancers and the breast cancers. But they found something very interesting, is that normal, healthy cells surrounding the young growing tumor, believe it or not, help feed the tumor. So it gives them one clue of things that they have to stop. And they found that in both cases, that if they can remove the healthy cells around the tumor won't grow or won't grow as fast. So there's got to be some interaction where inadvertently healthy cells are supporting or feeding the cancer. That's a problem. This was something great. Check this out. In Winnipeg, Canada, the euthanasias from shelters and facilities and pounds dropped from, catch these numbers, in 2008, 359 dogs. In 2016, 28 dogs. Wow. But what do they attribute it to? They attribute it to licensing. They had a whole social media campaign on responsible pet ownership, including licensing, vaccine, and microchipping, and the number of animals, because of licensing and identification, that are now be able to reunite with their families has been the difference. So from 359 to 28, that is huge. So let's learn from Winnipeg, Canada. I applaud them for doing this study, but get your pets microchipped, identified, and license them, because that little license tag, that is an ID tag. There is only one number that's given to every dog, and it's the only number that's used is that one for that dog. So they're all unique numbers. So if they find an animal that is licensed, is microchipped, or one or the other, preferably both, and there's no other identification, they can still identify the dog and reunite that dog with the family. So this is cool. I talked about this. I'm doing a lot of work with some of the food companies. And of course, we talk about obesity, good nutrition. And when we get to the subject of cats, we're always wondering, come on, you're not going to, I used to say, I don't see many cats walking the neighborhood on a harness, right? Let's go for a walk. When I go to the park, I don't see many cats chasing tennis balls and Frisbees. So how are we going to enhance and get our cats to exercise? So one of the things I talk about, of course, is whatever it is, cats love to hunt. So they love to chase things. So you get that laser light on the wall. You can get, a feather on a string. You can get these wind up toys that look like little rodents, like a little mouse. Cats love to chase movable targets. They even like the tracker. It's a ball in a track, and when they bat it, it keeps going around and around and around, and they keep batting it because it's moving. So they have so much fun. I had a cat once. All we had to do to get him to move around was wad up a piece of tinfoil into a ball. We used to roll it on the floor, and he used to chase it. I think he could be a master soccer player. It was unbelievable. So anyway, this woman, her name is Laura Moss. She authored a book, it's called Adventure Cats. And she believes that if you take a cat, a young cat like a kitten, and you put a harness on it and you put a leash on it and you start taking it outside when they're young, they learn to enjoy and to adapt. And then you have a cat as it gets older that you can take for walks. And it's one great way to keep them in shape. It's a great way to bond with your cats. So I thought that was pretty cute. So it's Adventure Cats. And Laura, if you could look it up, Laura Moss. And basically you're training your young cats to be able to deal with the harness and being outside for walks. This is also not surprising to me, but a statistic from one of the big insurance companies, that besides the fact that owners spent over $81 million on their dogs and cats last year. But what was interesting is this, that the number one money spent category in dogs, no surprise to any of us who have them, skin allergies. $233 per dog on average spent on skin allergies. And for a cat, now I knew this was really bad, but until I started working with the Iams company, and we're talking about they launched a new food called Iams Oral Care for cats. It's a new cat food, and it's really cool. And the reason why they jumped at that as an important food to introduce into the market, there are dog foods out there that are specific for oral care, but this is the first of its kind for cats. And the way the kibbles are shaped, they can't swallow them whole. It encourages chewing. And in the course of chewing, it takes care of the oral flora. It helps abrade the surface of the tooth. It helps prevent the plaque from accumulating and ultimately forming into calculus or tartar. And anyway, cats number one, ready for this? $376 per cat on average spent on oral care. So that's 1 year. So you have to know that it is a huge problem. Cats, it's very difficult, even for me, to brush cats' teeth. So I would highly advise all of you out there to make sure to take your cats into your veterinarian on a regular basis, have the teeth checked, have the gums checked. They have a lot of oral problems. Think about the new IAMS oral care cat formula and or something like it. To date, I know of no others, but it's really, really cool. I actually do feed it to two of my older cats, and they really, really like it. And it's great because you can watch them. They are crunching on these kibbles that are harder, and they have as I said, a funky shape. So, if you ever seen a cat vomit, hairball vomiting, right? And what comes up when you feed those cat foods, dry cat food with the little pellets, they all come up just like they went down. Because guess what? Cats don't usually chew. Dogs don't usually chew. So you need something to really get them to chew, and that'll help these problems. $376. That's huge. So something you want to take care of. One more before our break, and that is that this I found great because we all know that dogs and cats do this. Anyone else who's grown up in a household, horses do this. But birds, ravens, they did a study that they can recognize who's good to them and who's not. So they put these ravens through training exercises where they were taught to give up a reward in lieu of a better reward. And of course, they know who's giving the rewards. So what they would do is they would take a person and give, instead of exchanging for a better reward, they would exchange for a lesser reward. These birds ended up learning who does not give a better deal, and they start snubbing them, and they won't go back to them. It's like they dislike them. You took a good thing away from me, and you gave me something less? Well, the heck with you. And not only that, they remembered them for over a month. So that is really funny. So anyway, when we come back, don't go away. We'll be right back here on Pet Life Radio's Ask the Vets, and after these words from our sponsor.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
I love cleaning the litter box, said no one ever. Luckily, there's World's Best Cat Litter, the litter that promises less mess with less litter. Only World's Best Cat Litter uses the concentrated power of corn to quickly trap odors in tight clumps. And quick clumping means you never have to chisel or scrape the box. Less cleanup with less wasted litter? That's a litter bit amazing. Save $2 on World's Best Cat Litter. Visit www.saveonworldsbest.com.
Ew, get the stinky dog away from me. Bad breath and bad gas. Petey stopped eating. All his hair fell out.
Itching, licking, missing fur.
At least $5,000 in vet bill. Creams, antibiotics, sprays.
No results.
Everything we tried failed except the Dinovite. DINOVITE.com.
If you want the dog to be healthy, you got to feed it something healthy.
The omega-3 fatty acids. Flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa. The digestive enzymes that are cooked out of regular dog food.
Dinovite is nutrition.
The shedding is stopped and the itching is stopped.
Her coat is now soft, it's silky, it's healthy and shiny and glossy.
She's got life, she's got energy.
Tons of energy, no more bad smell.
Dinovite's the bomb.
Dinovite is the best thing that's ever happened to my dogs, besides me, of course.
859-428-1000.
859-428-1000.
Dinovite for life.
DINOVITE.com.
Molly, here's your dinner. Zeus, that's not your food.
Don't let that happen to your precious cat. Elevate your cat's eating experience with the Cat Tree Tray. The Cat Tree Tray keeps your cat's food off the floor and conveniently located on the cat tree. It's the perfect way to eat. It's a beautiful wrought iron tray that easily attaches to your cat tree and keeps dogs and other critters out of your cat's dish. A must for multi-pet households. There's a 6-inch tray for large bowls and a 4-inch tray for smaller bowls. Purchase your Cat Tree Tray today. Go right now to cattreetray.com. That's cattreetray.com. CATTREETRAY.com. TRAY.com.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Hi, welcome back. You're here live with Dr. Jeff Werber here on Pet Life Radio. And so we wanted to finish up some of the AVMA Smart Group. Then I want to talk to you about some very, very serious medical terminology. Oh, that's a joke. Okay, so first of all, this is a really cool story. Brutus, a dog that lost all 4 of his paws to frostbite, is now walking again, thanks to Colorado State University and orthopets who fit him with these prosthetic paws, these prosthetic feet, and he is walking and doing very, very well. That is really, really cool. I mean, the sky's the limit at what we're going to be able to see and what we do with our with dogs, but that is really cool. Orthopets, check them out, and CSU, Colorado State University, one of the top vet schools in the nation. So anyway, what else? I did something this week that is Inside Edition. And I got a call. I was doing a radio media tour, and it was for one of the food companies. And so I was up at 5 a.m., and I knew this was planned. All of a sudden, I get a call. This was Thursday morning. I get a call Wednesday afternoon that Inside Edition wants to come and talk to me, and they want to talk to me about squatting. And I go, about what? Squatting. This is a craze. If you go on Instagram, if you go YouTube, there are these people that are picking up their dogs, these big, heavy dogs, either cradling them or putting them on their shoulders, and they are doing squats, exercising. That's kind of weird, right? So they wanted to know what I thought. So she sends me a couple of links. So I'm watching the squatting, and it is weird, but they wanted to see, what I thought about it. So I had them come to my office with the cameras, and we did a segment. It aired actually on Thursday and on the weekend edition. So I got a lot of play out of it. And my basic point is, I took one of our rescue dogs, and we worked with some rescue groups. The first time this dog has probably ever been picked up, let alone thrown on my shoulders, around my neck, and squatted. But as I said, the bottom line is this. If you do it, I recommend first you cradle the dog. You pick him up sort of behind his butt and in front of his shoulders, and hold him that way close to you, and see how he responds. If he's not fighting you too much, then that's great. So then the next step would be to then, if you can, put him over your shoulders and see how he does. Does he tolerate it really well or not? So I thought that was kind of crazy. And do it. If your dog hates it, don't force it. And be careful. You be careful if you have a 100-pound dog. I don't want you falling backwards. And if you're not strong enough to actually hold, I don't want you dropping the dog, or else he too may need some prosthetic devices. So be really careful. One thing that I wanted to talk about is that and I see this a lot, and I wanted to sort of help you all, because many times you may wake up in the morning and have a headache, have a little stomach ache, something a little off. And how many of you, with that feeling of being a little off, run to the doctor? Yeah, most of the time, you're going to think back, is this maybe a little food poisoning? Maybe I ate something. You might take an aspirin. You might take an Advil. But, something is a little off, but you don't panic. Well, many cases that are brought to me with a very, very technical term of diagnosis, and we call it ADR. Now, a human doctor can't get away with this, but an MD, but a veterinarian can get away with this. And often I'll write down ADR. What is ADR? ADR, and you got to remember where veterinary medicine started, and years and years and years and years ago, mostly we were talking about large animals and farms and herds. And anyway, ADRs ain't doing right. And, come on, doc, I don't know what's going on here. Just ain't doing right. So we have adopted ADR as a very technical medical term, like BAR. BAR we use for bright, alert, and responsive. QAR is quiet, but alert and responsive. And then all the way down the line, different ways that we're writing our notes. So often we'll do just an ADR, ain't doing right. ADRs mean there's nothing specific. You can't find anything when we do our exam. The owner doesn't know. All the owner can tell me is this dog was just, or cat or whatever, it's just not him or herself. Something is going on. And when it comes to ADRs, they're sometimes the most difficult things to determine, to diagnose, because you don't even know where to start. Everything looks fine. So you start becoming very hesitant to even take an x-ray. To what are we going to do? Because it just doesn't seem right. And you do a blood test. You have a dog who's a happy puppy yesterday. He's 3 years old, right? And everything is fine. All of a sudden today, he just didn't want to eat breakfast. He's a little off. Yeah, So this is where, when you have these cases where you have to look at the big picture, I always feel like, this diagnostic medicine is the area where many more veterinarians should become experts at. And that is, get the blinders off and start looking at the big picture. Start getting a history. All of a sudden you get some of these ADRs, that scenario I just gave you. And when you're talking to the owner, the dog went to a doggy daycare the day before, or went to a friend's house, or you took it to the dog park and it got out of your sight for a little bit. Well, I'm not that panicked unless the dog is puking its guts out, can barely lift its head. But if it's just ADR, just something is off. It's nothing I can pinpoint. I'm just going to give it a day or so. I'll try to get a history, good palpation. If I don't feel anything, if I don't see anything, obviously, if the color's good, right? If there's no obvious sources of pain or discomfort, and nothing in the history really worried me that much. Like, no, the dog was licking the stuff dripping out of my car's radiator. Well, yeah, we got a problem. So don't panic when things are just, you say to yourself, if it's something that happened to you where you just feel a little bit off, nothing obvious, no serious clinical signs, it's okay to wait a day. It's okay to sit back and think, what did we do yesterday or earlier this morning that was different than normal routine? Were there other people in the house? Did they go to a different place? Did they go to a daycare? Did they go to a dog park? Is it likely or possible that he picked up something outside? Remember, dogs will eat the craziest things. I just had a client call me, and they had this little plastic toy. No taste to it even. And this dog, not even a puppy, ate the darn thing. Not only did the dog eat it, but the owner thinks that the dog swallowed it whole. So that's kind of crazy stuff. So as a precaution, when I go through a statistic from the pet insurance companies that the $81 million spent, I feel if you're going to spend the money, then make it money well spent. And spend it when you need to. Don't spend it when you don't have to. And don't panic. I'm certainly more conservative. I always shoot for the obvious stuff first. And I'm not worried about doing extra tests. And don't let your veterinarian just go crazy to identify something that doesn't seem to be that serious. And if they are, what would give us the most information right now? Well, let's do that test first. Because, x-rays, so many doctors jump to x-rays. There's a lot you can do and feel in a dog or a cat, especially a cat, where you don't really need the x-ray. A good palpation will give you a lot of answers. And it may not tell you what it is, but it will tell you what it's not. And with a cat, usually unless they're obese, you can feel both kidneys, you can feel the stomach, you can feel intestines, you can feel, the bladder, and you can also not feel a large mass or a spot where the cat just will not tolerate it. So take the conservative approach. Remember, ADR ain't doing right, and there are ADRs that you need to be a little concerned about and ADRs that you don't have to be that concerned about. Anyway, thanks for joining me here. I know the second half of the show, our sound may have been off, having some mic issues, but anyway, it was great to be here with you. Once again, thanks to our sponsors, Brubecto, Save This Life, More Than a Cone. And if you have any questions, anything you want to talk about, please either call us during the show, 877-385-8882, or send me an email. Send me an email to drjeff, that's Dr. Jeff at PetLifeRadio.com. And I will be able to talk about whatever it is that you'd like to talk about. If you're embarrassed to join us here on live, then we can talk about it next week on the show. Have a wonderful, safe week, everybody, and we'll be here next week.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.